Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. And after furore over Rishi Sunak's financial affairs, which, in combination with his latest economic policies, have almost certainly sunk his political ambitions forever, his predecessor, also former banker and current Health Secretary Sajid Javid, is facing scrutiny over his own potentially dodgy, maybe even illegal, financial dealings. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So I saw something recently which said that only 5 out of 22 cabinet members can confidently say they are not tax avoiders. Only 5 out of 22 cabinet members are quite clear that they are not involved in any tax avoidance schemes. That means that the vast majority of the top ministers in government are either known to be actively avoiding paying taxes to the UK Treasury or are being evasive about answering the question, which makes you suspect, well, you probably are, aren't you? Bad at any time. Terrible when they've broken their own manifesto promise and not only raised taxes for ordinary workers, but levied the highest tax burden on them for generations. Because that's what the Conservatives are doing. They're saying, we haven't got enough, we've got to raise your taxes because we haven't got enough tax revenues to pay for everything we need. Why aren't you paying tax properly then? The last time the tax burden was so high, we'd just come out of the Second World War. We were building the NHS and the welfare state. What's the excuse now? We're paying for Tory corruption and largesse and getting nothing in return. What are we getting out of it? Nothing. You know, we're not getting a large public sector. We're not getting an NHS or anything like that. And to cap it all, the government who are imposing this on us don't even seem to be showing much solidarity. But the latest target of scrutiny is specifically Sajid Javid. Now, I mentioned him when I was talking recently about Rishi Sunak's affairs. Javid is quite open about the fact that he claimed non-dom status to avoid paying some taxes in the UK before he became a politician. You know, he said he stopped doing all that when he decided to stand for election. Okay, so he didn't do it as a politician, unlike Rishi Sunak. He's a little bit more coy about when and for how many years this was happening, however. But he says he's not claimed this status at the point at which he decided to enter politics. And that, you know, that may, under normal circumstances, have been the end of it. You know, it's not good that our taxation laws allow very wealthy people to avoid paying UK taxes while still getting the full benefits of UK residency. After all, the wealthiest are the most easily able to pay their way without having to impact their standard of living at all. So why should there be special rules that allow the rich to avoid paying the taxes when the poor have to pay more taxes? But it just sort of seems to be accepted, doesn't it? It's not illegal, comes the defence. True enough. But the reason it's not illegal is because the government allow it. MPs could close these tax loopholes fairly easily, in many cases at least. But when it comes to Sajid Javid, the question is being asked, was it legal? We're used to tax avoidance schemes. They're like tax evasion, which is a crime, only it's legal. That's the difference. That's the only difference. It's not that one is morally okay and the other isn't. You know, it's simply that MPs allow one scheme and not the other. But the tax avoidance scheme of choice for Sajid Javid was to claim non-dom status. Now, this is supposed to be for foreigners who may spend some time in the country. They may even live here for a year or two, but claim permanent residence elsewhere, so they only pay UK tax on UK earnings. But Sajid Javid is British. He was born here, raised here, educated here, worked here. Unlike Sunak, he doesn't appear to have really applied for permanent residency in another country. On what legal basis was he able to claim non-dom status? See, you're only supposed to be able to claim that. You have to be able to do it. You have to prove that your permanent residence is outside the UK and that you don't intend to be permanent resident in the UK in future to have non-dom status in this country. So where was Javid claiming to be permanently resident, even though he was living and mostly working in the UK before becoming an MP? It seems that Javid was claiming that his Pakistani father gave him this right. But according to tax experts for the Financial Times, that doesn't cover it at all. Nor was the fact that Javid worked for an international bank. The experts say he would have to demonstrate that he did not intend to live in the UK and that he had a stronger personal link to the claimed country of permanent residence outside of the UK. It is not immediately clear that either of these could possibly be true. He did work in the US he has worked abroad. He worked in the US for a few years. But that wouldn't be relevant because he claims non-dom status after this period. He wouldn't have needed it during those years working in the US either because he wasn't living in the UK at the time. Non-dom status is for people who are living in the UK but want to claim that officially they don't. So now his opposite number in Labour, Wes Streeting, is asking a lot of questions. He's written to Javid to ask for clarity about this non-dom status on the basis that it's not immediately obvious that he was legally entitled to it. In addition, there are questions about some of his other financial dealings, including a trust that he dissolved after becoming a minister in 2012. He paid tax on the money, but there are some technical questions about whether the trust was funded with his non-dom earnings, in which case maybe he should have paid more tax than he actually did for them. So Streeting is asking detailed questions about the nature of the trust, where it was based, what investments it held, what role his financial affairs had in the Deutsche Bank scheme that was declared an illegal tax avoidance scheme in the early noughties. Javid is claiming that he has been open and honest about his tax affairs, but if that's the case, why is he not wanting to answer the latest questions? Also, why is he claiming justification for his non-dom status on the basis of factors that tax experts would say, or have said, don't justify it at all? Because that matters a great deal. The questions hanging over Javid here are not just those of avoiding taxes, which is morally questionable but legal. You know, why is avoiding taxes when he's got the nerve to tell others that they should pay more, and during a cost of living crisis where people can't even afford to buy the essentials, that's bad enough and reason to put Javid under scrutiny over potential hypocrisy. But if there are questions about even the legality of his financial affairs, it is much more important to get answers. Right now, we've got known criminals as Prime Minister and Chancellor. Neither of these criminals is being removed from office, which means that we also know that the wider Conservative Party, especially the Parliamentary Party, do not value the rule of law. Now we have a Health Secretary who is saying nothing at all about COVID when we've got over 2,000 COVID deaths a week. And although we are likely to get some respite this summer, is doing nothing to prepare for next autumn and winter. So what is he doing as Health Secretary then? What is his focus? What is he doing? What is he working on other than accelerating his programme of privatisation of the NHS? And knowing his financial links should be a given with such a policy. What if he's got financial links with healthcare companies who would benefit from his decisions as Health Secretary? You know, what if we don't just have a Prime Minister and a Chancellor who have broken the law? What if we have a Health Secretary who's done so as well? We know that the Conservative Party won't take a stand against it because they haven't taken a stand against it with two of Javid's colleagues. And so if they won't do it for other criminal colleagues, they won't do it for him. So the public have a right to have any reasonable questions concerning probity answered in public. And if Javid or any other minister wants to complain about the intrusion into their private affairs, these are private affairs, maybe remind them nobody forced them to become MPs or government ministers. They all stood for election because this is what they wanted. So they can take the scrutiny that comes with it as well. Because I may be an old cynic, but I think that when a politician is being evasive about issues that they are claiming they're being open about, it can only be one of two reasons. First, that the issue is politically sensitive. I accept that. Sometimes there's an issue where you have done nothing wrong, but it can look bad in public. Or two, that they're hiding behaviour that is not consistent with their office. Now, if his financial affairs were politically sensitive, why is he talking about them at all? There was no push in the mainstream media to talk about them, as there would have been for a Labour minister in the same circumstances. So the evasions can only be because he almost certainly has not behaved entirely properly. Certainly that's the strong suspicion. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. And until next time, I'll see you later.